This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to my streaming service, Nebula, when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description of this video, and gain access to an extended cut of this video, complete with a PDF of some incredible transcribed Johnny Costa endings. Hi everybody, welcome to Amy Nolte Music. In the tiny town of Weaverville, California, where I grew up, 3,500 people, my family had access to 3 television stations, ABC, CBS, and PBS. From the time I could talk, my mom found a little extra time to get things done around the house while I was tuned in to children's programming on public television. And in the early 80s, that meant Sesame Street and my favorite, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In recent years, there has been much well-deserved hype about Fred Rogers and his vision for creating children's programming. But back in 1981, I only knew one thing for sure. That was that Fred Rogers cared about me. In fact, I remember turning 4, running to the kitchen as soon as Mr. Rogers came on to beg my mom, could we please take my birthday cake over to the TV to show Mr. Rogers, because I was so sure that he would want to see my birthday cake. Of course he would want to see it. He was interested in my life. I can still remember what it felt like to feel that he really cared about me. The show always opened on a lovely little model of the town where Mr. Rogers lived. And as the camera panned over the buildings, I listened to what I now realize was the first jazz I ever heard. I had no idea where the music was made, who played the music.
In this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
No idea that it was being played live along with the show.
You know those things that go around crayons? Those are labels. Yes, so this is a machine that puts labels on the crayons.
That most of it was completely improvised.
This little suitcase has little hats in it. Look at those little hats. Look at that.
And that it was being played by a man named Johnny Costa. Born in 1922 in Arnold, Pennsylvania, Johnny Costa was the pianist, arranger, and musical director of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from its start in 1968 until his death in 1996. He was dubbed the White Art Tatum by Art Tatum himself. He was a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University, a touring jazz pianist, and musical director for the Mike Douglas Show before signing on for his 28-year stint at Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers had this to say of Costa.
He is one of the most gifted musicians that I have ever met. He is probably one of the finest jazz pianists in the world.
Children have ears, and they're people, and they can hear good music as well as anybody else. So I started right from the beginning playing for them as I would for any adults.
When I first started to work with Fred, I was real jazzer, you know. And I thought, well, I don't know, children's program. I just wonder, can I play the things that I've been playing, that I want to play, you know? And Fred didn't care. And so when I'd play Good Feeling, you know, I didn't do it for the ears of a child. I didn't do it this way. I wouldn't do that, so I figured, well. And Fred loved it, and I kept doing it, and the people loved it.
Costa never played down to children. He understood that children were capable of understanding the kind of sophisticated elements that Costa was always honing in his music. Each day, Costa and his trio, Carl McVicker Jr. on bass and Bobby Hawthorne on percussion, played live in the studio for filming. In my tiny town, exposure to culture and the wider world was extremely limited. Now that I look back on the content that I remember from the show, I realize how much Mr. Rogers exposed me to. People from all walks of life. People of color.
It's so warm, I was just putting some water on my feet.
Oh, it sure is.
Would you like to join me?
It looks awfully enjoyable, but I don't have a towel or anything.
Oh, you share mine.
People with disabilities.
And I got a wheelchair when I was 4 years old.
That was your first one, when you were 4.
People with varied interests, passions, and occupations.
This is space food, huh?
Yeah, this is some of the food that we carried in flight.
Kids all across America got to see what a neighborhood could be like if everyone brought their skills and talents and shared them with each other unselfishly. I learned that the mail carrier and the school teacher played just as an important role in the community as professional athletes or scientists, and that race and gender played no role in determining someone's potential in life. Most importantly, I think that Mr. Rogers was able to drive in core principles that helped kids grow up to be compassionate, thoughtful, and empathetic people. He did it with songs.
You are my friend, you are special. You are my friend, you're special to me.
Rogers, a gifted musician and pianist himself, penned over 200 songs during the run of his show. Each song had a distinct purpose.
I like you as you are. I wouldn't want to change you. I like to take my time. I mean that when I want to do a thing, I like to take.
And many of them were aimed at helping children to understand and deal with their emotions.
What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite?
Others just tried to give them subtle strategies for how to cope with life.
Please don't think it's funny when you want the ones you miss.
And behind Mr. Rogers' honest, straightforward delivery was always Costa, playing behind him with his trio.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
Costa created themes for various segments of the show, such as the trolley theme, using a Celeste synth sound that would play each time the trolley took us to the neighborhood of make-believe. Rogers never wrote cues for Costa at all. Of course, he had the script with him, and he followed along as the show was being filmed every day. I watched Fred, and there must be some kind of telepathy that we're not aware of, because somehow I get the message to play or not to play. I'm sure that some of it has to do with working together all these years, but a lot of it is unexplainable. The sound of Costa's playing was a bright spot in my young ears. It was always something that I knew I loved, and I could imagine the way that it sounded in my head, but I couldn't replicate it. As an 8 or 9-year-old, I remember being downstairs in my house and watching an episode, and as the final credits rolled, I remember paying so close attention to the way that that piano sounded so that I could run upstairs, just sprint upstairs to the piano to try to sound like that. It was at least a decade before I even understood how to come close to that. But I do realize that it was that sound in my ears that most likely made me seek out being a jazz piano player and spending my life playing this music. In the extended version of this video, which I'll talk a little more about later, I talk more in depth about Costa's playing. I highly recommend this album, where he and his trio play their own imaginations of the songs that Rogers wrote. Another album that I would recommend is Beyond the Neighborhood, the music of Fred Rogers, which was made by my friend Kevin Bales, who's a great pianist out of Atlanta. Very much worth checking out. Earlier, I mentioned Nebula, my fantastic streaming platform, which is where you can find exclusive videos from myself as well as other amazing creators that you are already familiar with. This is what my Nebula channel looks like. You can see extended versions of videos that I post, as well as occasional bonus content like educational PDFs. These videos tend to be more in-depth material that aren't quite right for YouTube. For instance, my extended interview with Rosanna Eckert includes a transcription of some of the lines that we're singing in the video so that you can sing along with us as you watch. The best way to get Nebula is to sign up for a subscription to CuriosityStream, who have been kind enough to sponsor this video. For a limited time, they are offering 26% off of their annual plan, which means you get CuriosityStream as well as Nebula for under $15 a year. CuriosityStream is the best place on the internet to see thousands of documentaries and nonfiction titles on countless subjects. It's the biggest subscription documentary platform on the internet. It was founded by John Hendricks, who also founded the Discovery Channel. One documentary that I highly recommend is Frank Sinatra or America's Golden Age, which is a thorough exploration of Old Blue Eyes through the decades, painting a colorful and in-depth portrait of his work in recording, stage, television, and film, without neglecting attention to the more difficult times in his life. If you'd love to learn more about the life and music of one of the most popular entertainers the world has ever seen, you need to check out this documentary. We've worked out a deal for you to sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description that you see here, and when you do that, you will also get a Nebula subscription for free. The Nebula subscription is not a trial. It's free for as long as you remain a CuriosityStream member. After you use the code AmyNolte, you will receive a welcome video from Nebula giving you access to the platform. Using this code and signing up will help me and my fellow creators to be able to keep doing what we love doing, creating videos that we think are important, and that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for your help. Like I said, in the extended cut of this video, we will go over some transcribed Johnny Costa endings from some of these songs that I've mentioned today. He was a brilliant pianist who had a Tatum-like facility and ability to reimagine songs over and over again. Thanks for watching, everybody. Revisit some of these episodes. Not only is the music fantastic, but the content's fantastic. Fred Rogers was ahead of his time, and he and Costa made such a great team. Unmatched, in my opinion. I'll see you next time on Amy Nolte Music.